بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا وإمامنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Can I have a brother or sister please remind and teach or enlighten me and us on two things. The first is the theme and or title of this whole conference. And secondly, what is the title of the lecture that I'm supposed to give you right now? I'm dead serious though. Nah, Sheikh Shamsuddin, Sheikh Yaqub, Sheikh Sultan, tell him I'm what? I'm dead serious. Right, Bismillah. I'm listening.
Leveling everything, there is no double standard.
What's the name? What's the title of the conference?
Maintaining our moral code.
Maintaining our moral code. Maintaining our moral code. All right, Tayyip. And what am I supposed to talk about now?
Leveling everything. There's no double standard when it comes to justice. No double standards when it comes to justice.
Okay, so first and foremost is maintaining our moral what? We said what?
Our moral
code. All right, Tayyip. So as we always say, the importance of paying attention to what's being said. The words, as they say, you gotta read the labels, right? So the word maintain is presupposed that you already what? That you have the thing. But now you gotta keep up on it. You have to stay upon what you've already obtained, and you want it to last, you want to add years, polish it, whatever the case may be, and allow it to age well. Correct or incorrect?
Correct.
To maintain. Moral. That's a very tricky word. And oftentimes it's a very vague word or misused word. And oftentimes the word moral or morality or immoral or morals, they're abused and exploited by people. Whether it be a politician, whether it be someone doing an interview, someone being interviewed, whether it be a husband arguing with his wife, a wife fighting with her husband, etc. This is immoral. You lack morality. Right? I taught you better than this. You're supposed to know your morals, etc. The word is oftentimes misused and abused and thrown around. A simple example of that is politics. Is a secular nation, a secular state, is a secular system of government, and magically big fat rabbit comes out the top hat, and then someone says morals. When and how were we ever discussing what's moral and immoral? It's not a political term. And it's subjective. Someone attacking Islam. The Prophet ﷺ having all of those wives is immoral. The Prophet marrying Aisha at such a young, tender age is immoral. Who and what defines what is and what isn't moral or immoral? What ruler are we using? Whose rule book are we using? So maintaining the thing, how do you maintain something that you don't have? So many of us, before we talk about a moral, and the last word, of course, code, we have to make sure that we have a moral code, let alone maintain it, let alone allow it to bloom and blossom, to flourish, and to grow stronger with time, to age well. And code. What is a code? Is a code a set of rules and laws laid out plainly, simply? Or is a code an enigma? Something that you know what I'm talking about, but nobody else. And in most cases, people use codes intentionally to convey a message without unwanted people knowing the contents of that message. Only you can relate to this word or this slang or what's meant by that. Not everybody's meant to get it. So why do we use the word code? Our law, our way, our system, code. What is a moral code? Last but not least, the word code is oftentimes used for abbreviation, like an acronym. These letters represent these words. It's encoded. It's encrypted. It has to be deciphered. So to save time, to save space, I just have a code. Is this not the case? Is this not the case or not? So a code can save you time, it can save you space, and it can also save you weight and volume, such as a passcode on a door, in which using a metal key is considered to be nowadays, that's not extinct, but obsolete for sure. There are people who use the headphone jack. I don't like Bluetooth. Bluetooth causes cancer. I lose my headphones. But for sure, that cord is obsolete. The lightning cable is now what? It's obsolete. Most things that are made now USB-C. Right or wrong. Okay? So the code, putting in the digits to get access to this door, this house, your house, Airbnb, your phone, is meant to save time, space. Right or wrong? So something which isn't meant to give you a lot of weight and volume is meant to refresh you, remind you. You know what it is when you see the what? Code. All you have to do is be reminded of it. This is the code. Everyone understand this or not? Unspoken words, law, code of the streets, so on and so forth. A look is all it takes. Nothing much needs more to be said, right? So how do we maintain our moral code? What's meant by maintaining? What's meant by moral? And what's meant by code? Obviously a lecture can be given just on the title of the theme, the title of the whole entire conference. Much needs to be said just on that. What's meant by maintaining? How does a Muslim maintain? What are the ways of maintaining your iman? Holding fast to the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in light of all of these different challenges and fitan, day and night, meant to shake you up, meant to keep your mind busy and engaged. Fitna with the Muslims, fitna outside of the realm and the circle of the Muslims, etc. I need to maintain. Alright? Right. As far as leveling the what? What's it called?
Playing field.
Leveling the playing field. Alright? Tayyib. And doing what? There's no what? Double standards when it comes to? When it comes to justice. Right. Allahu Alam what that means, what that's supposed to mean, honestly. However, I'm going to try my best. And that is our religion, our faith, our way of life and death is supposed to be based off of those two guiding principles. Justice, avoiding, fighting, shooing away from injustice. That is the foundation of Islam. And that's because the greatest ideal or precept or concept or reality, the greatest principle of Islam is Tawheed, is the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Worshipping Allah alone without partner is the greatest manifestation of justice. Associating partners with Allah in worship is the greatest manifestation of injustice. We agree or disagree?
Agree.
Tawheed of Allah is the greatest justice. No one and nothing is more just than worshiping Allah alone, giving Him what He deserves. And for you to bring in a spirit or an ancestor or a saint or a god or a goddess or a demon that you call upon, that you fear, that you offer worship for, sacrifice for, that is the greatest type of what?
Injustice.
And everything else follows. The physical acts of worship that are based off of your tawheed and your iman, they're manifestations of justice. Give Allah His rights. Give your body its rights. Don't oppress yourself. Give the people their rights. Never show injustice, ingratitude to Allah. Don't wrong yourself. That's not right. What you're doing to yourself, what you're doing to your body. Your mind is a terrible what? Terrible thing to waste. How dynamic it is. How amazing the human mind is. And you just waste it. It's a terrible thing to waste. All waste is terrible. But for sure, wasting your mind is what? Terrible. It's a terrible thing to waste. Destroying your body, harming your body, throwing yourself unnecessarily in harm's way. That's injustice. Oppressing the people. You have no business talking to this person like that. You have to pay this. You have to be there. You have to physically come to the aid of this person and that person. That's what? That's injustice. That's zulm. So you have to understand that justice starts with tawheed, and everything else falls in line. Injustice starts with what? Shirk. And everything else comes as a product and a result of that major injustice. The heavens and the earth were established with justice. Were established with justice. Now, when it comes to tawheed being so important concerning justice, and shirk being so integral when it comes to injustice, it's a story mentioned. Actually, one of my shuyukh in Medina, he told us this story. He said that one day there was a man who had many daughters. And his daughters were, mashallah, beautiful, attractive, young women that wanted to get married. And of course he wanted to find a young, handsome man to take care of his daughters. So one day he heard of a young man asking for the hand of in marriage one of his daughters. So the father happened to be upon an understanding of Islam, a practice of Islam, a denomination of Islam known as a-Sufiya. Is a Sufi. What type of Sufi? Was it the extreme Sufi, light Sufi, diet Sufi? Is all Sufism bad, wrong, bid'ah? That's not the point right now. One thing's for sure is that he identified himself as being a man of Sufism, tasawwuf, whether you call it mysticism, whatever, and the young man who wanted his daughter's hand in marriage happened to be someone who was known or associated with Wahhabism. Is that a correct term? Is that a right term? Is that an accurate term? That's not the point. What's important is he was a person who was of the Puritan faith. Kitab, Sunnah. End of discussion. The consensus is based off of Kitab and Sunnah. The qiyas, the deductive analogies are based off of Kitab and Sunnah. What the companion said or did, Kitab and Sunnah. That's our aqidah, that's our ibadah. Let's keep it simple. No shirk, no bid'ah whatsoever. Hence known to many Muslims in the world as someone known as Al-Wahhabiyah. So obviously the man, he has sons as well. And the sons, they asked him, like, you want me to go take care of this guy, this Wahhabi, this young punk trying to marry such and such? We can, get rid of him. And the father, he said, no, not yet. What do you mean? Are you actually considering allowing such and such, our sister, to marry this guy? He's going to come in the house, this is haram, this is shirk, you can't, he's Wahhabi, we're Sufis, etc. He said, no, not yet. So the sons were shocked that the father didn't immediately say, heck no, you can't marry my daughter. It'd be a cold day, such and such. They were shocked. They didn't know, they didn't understand. So the father, as he sat down and he started thinking and deliberating, he said, invite him over. What do you mean, invite him over? Abby, he's a such and such. He says, yeah, I know. Invite him over. We'll have tea, we'll have coffee, and he'll meet such and such, and they'll sit and they'll talk. They couldn't believe it. The sons couldn't believe it. So one of them, he asked them, what justifies you allowing our sister to marry this Wahhabi guy? And he said, even if he isn't a Sufi, and even if he differs with us in theory and or practice, if he's true to his Wahhabism, who claim to be people of Tawheed, strong, pure Tawheed, he says that it's impossible for him to wrong my daughter. There's no way he'll wrong her. I might not agree with him. He may not come to our festivals and dancing and spinning and twirling, but he won't be an abusive husband. They said, how is that, Father? It says, because anyone who's firm upon Tawheed will be firm upon justice. And Allah Azza wa Jalla tells us in the Quran, Shahid Allahu annahu la ilaha illa huwa wal malaikatu wa ulul ilmi qa'iman bil adl. Allah says that Allah bears witness, and thus do the angels, and so do the people of knowledge, that none has the right to be worshipped but Him. And Allah Azza wa Jalla qa'iman bil qist. Allah is the most just. Allah establishes justice. Allah calls His servants to be just. Allah presents and reaffirms and teaches us the necessity of justice. So Tawheed and justice are Inseparable. So if he's correct in his claim to being a person of Tawheed, he'll be a good husband to my daughter. Then obviously many things can be said about this story with regards to sight versus perception. You think about a son-in-law that you're going to like and you're going to agree with, and that you can parade around town and show off, hey, this is my son-in-law. Instead of thinking what's best for your daughter. What's the best match for your daughter? What's going to be a means of happiness and smiles versus a headache and migraine? When your daughter calls you at 2 a.m., Abby, he beat me up again. You go and visit your daughter and the apartment is cold. Why is the heat is off again? And the list goes on and on and on. So I may not like you. I don't think that you're the best person, but if my daughter likes you and I don't have the main things to go, Bismillah, so be it. And what's going to make my daughter happy? So being a professional father, being a professional wali, that's a discussion in it, what? In itself. And most of us as fathers, walis, husbands, not all, but most of us, we're stingy and we're selfish. And we only think about our own personal egos instead of making and keeping our daughters happy. You're a broker. You're an agent.
Right.
Your job is to make the deal what? Go through. If you get something, make the deal go through. That's your job. So we have to be reminded of the importance of Tawheed, the necessity of Tawheed, understanding Tawheed properly, and how that is going to pull over and spill over into every single aspect of our lives. If our Tawheed is strong, then our justice will be strong. And if there's there's some weakness, some dinks and dents, let alone gaping holes in your Tawheed and your Aqidah, then of course you're going to practice injustice to yourself, to your family members, to your neighbors, so on and so forth. And if you just stop and look at all of the people who claim to have justice and to fight injustice, you'll find this to be true. So that's first and foremost. Let's not put the horse ahead of the what? Ahead of the carriage or the cart. Nah, khair inshallah all time. All right, tight. There are no double standards when it comes to what? When it comes to justice. Tight, khair inshallah. So what I want to share with you, brothers and sisters, some things to reflect upon and to think about with regards to most of us, and this is extremely applicable to this country and the history of this country, the current state of this country, and Allah knows best the near future of this country. Most people who have the courage to be activists, to stand up, to protest, to speak out against, to demand, not all, but the vast majority, they're only selective when it comes to justice and injustice. They fight for causes that suit them, that benefit them, that are cozy and comfy and convenient. But when there is a cause which matches up with their claims, you don't see them, hear them protesting, fighting, arguing, and demanding justice. And this is something that most humans are guilty of. Black, white, yellow, Arab, African, West African, Negro, Hispanic, and the list goes on. Muslim, Jew, Christian. Except for the few people whom Allah Azza wa Jalla has mercy upon. And that is why you find people, if you look at the different interviews and podcasts, let alone the books, you'll find people clearly stating, I have no race in this horse, he said. He says, I'm not a Muslim, I'm not an Arab, I have no family members in Palestine, I have no race in this horse. Whether the Muslim, whether the Palestinians get land, don't get land, whether they're slaughtered, whatever, that's not going to make me lose sleep. My family members aren't there. But what's been happening, what is happening, and what people have the plan to do is just wrong. I'm Irish. We are supposed to know what it means to be occupied and colonized and wronged and oppressed. We know well what it means, armed resistance, that I'm willing to die for my cause, and that the oppressor uses a heavy hand when you dare stand up against his oppression. So therefore, I'm Irish, I'm not Palestinian, I'm not Arab, I'm not Muslim, I'm none of those things. But what they've been going through, what they're going through, what they plan to do to them is wrong. So therefore, it is my job, it is my duty for me to say something, to speak out, to take a stance. And that is because there ain't any what? Double standards when it what? When it comes to justice. Someone is being wronged and oppressed. My religion, my denomination, or not? I have to say something about it. This is a very sad reality with regards to the mixing pot and the melting pot of this country of ours, and Muslims, indigenous Muslims, migrant Muslims, and the list goes on. When it comes to their race being wronged and oppressed, they stand up. They raise funds. They raise their voices loud. They wear this flag and this color and this patch to paint their faces. They'll go all out. But when it's another race being wronged and oppressed and slaughtered, you find them what? Totally silent. Rather, unfortunately, if they were asked, hey, you want to come to this rally for the rights of Hispanic people, such and such, they'll tell you no, or heck no, or that's haram to do that, or you should, don't worry about that, or you'll never ever change. You'll find people saying ugly statements like that. But when it's their race or their religion or denomination, justice, justice, justice. And that is clearly a double what? Standard of justice. The people that they're fighting against and calling out their fouls, we know they're double, triple, quadruple standards of justice. This country has the right and obligation to defend itself. These poor people have no right to defend themselves, no matter what they do. They have to just lay down and submit and take the oppression, be stomped upon and trampled upon. And that is why if you're an activist for justice, social justice, civil rights, you have to keep it consistent all around the board. But the shaitan is very crafty, and he knows how to isolate and how to section people and things and movements off. Instead of it being an Islamic problem, it's now an Arab problem. But if you thought about it, if it was an Islamic problem, how many more allies and supporters would you have? But I ain't Arab, so therefore it's not my problem, or vice versa. It's a black thing. I'm not black, so therefore it's not my problem. It's a huge problem, let alone nation. And you'd be shocked if you looked and studied at the history of nationalism, where it comes from. When it was made an actual term, and the absurdities that pertain to it. You'd be shocked if you read the history of nationalism. Nothing to do with Islam. Just look and read when people start looking at nation, fighting, making peace just based off of one's nation, and the atrocities that came as a result of nationalism, let alone extreme nationalism. So the moral of the story is, we as Muslims, whenever we see evil, we have to say something about it. We have to do something about it. And the Messenger of Allah, alayhi salatu wasalam, he gave us in so many authentic texts the principles of avoiding double standards when it comes to justice. If you see evil, you change it. Evil pertains to you, my business, not my business, man, woman, doesn't matter. Let's make another example that's on a lower level. It's not talking about politics anymore, worlds, geopolitical, etc. There was a study that was done, a reality study. Perhaps some of you have seen it before. There is a man who's he's in a mall and he's harassing women. They're both actors, they're being recorded, but no one else sees them being recorded. So he goes up to one girl, hey, what'd you do? She can't get away from me. And he keeps bothering her and harming her. And of course, hey, yo, what are you doing, man? Leave her alone. Can't you see she doesn't like you? And then he goes to another girl who's also acting. Hey, can I talk to you? Hey, yo, man, get out of here. She said, she clearly don't stop. Leave her alone. And the third and the fourth and the fifth and the sixth. And every single time there was a white knight, a strong guy saying, hey, leave her alone. That's sexual harassment. And then they reverse the roles. Some, geeky, nerdy looking guy sitting minding his business in the mall. And some stereotypically attractive, sexy type of woman comes up to him. Starts talking to him. She puts her hand on him. Don't touch me. What's the matter? You don't like women? You gay? Huh? No, thank you. And then the guy walks by and says, hey, what's wrong with you, man? Can't you see she likes you? And then the third, and the fourth, and the fifth, and the sixth. And everybody found it extremely troubling that this guy or this man didn't want anything to do with this beautiful, attractive woman. And then afterwards, they said, look guys, you guys were on camera. Everybody thought it was wrong when a man harassed a woman. No one thought it was wrong when a woman harassed a man. It's not sexual harassment when she touches him or tries to put her body on him. That's okay. But when a man does it, then that's bullying. So we have to get out of this cycle of picking and choosing what's right and what's wrong, what's moral and what's immoral. Even if you can't fight for every cause, you have to accept the fact that this is a cause worthy of fighting for. Whether they're Vietnamese fighting for their freedom, whether they're Palestinians, whether they're Africans, whoever they are, dhulm is dhulm. And the Prophet ﷺ, he clearly tells us, helping out your brother, unsur akhaka dhaliman or mazluman. Help out your brother whether he's wronged or whether he is the wrongdoer. I.e., the Muslim should never ever be able to tolerate the stench of dhulm. That's the moral of the story. There's no way that you can sit around it. You walk in a room, what's that smell? Nothing. It smells moldy. You've been sitting in the room for hours. You can't smell it anymore. You need to, something stinks. I can't remove the smell. I didn't make the smell, but you have to acknowledge the fact that what? It stinks. And not, oh, it smells like perfume to me, unless it's in my room. If it's in my room, then it stinks, then it's moldy. But if it's in your room, then it's, air freshener. And this is one of the reasons, sad realities, one can say without being a pessimist, that the world won't change. And that these different wars and these different atrocities and massacres and genocides will continue until the people take a stance against it and never ever becoming like the oppressor that you swore to destroy. The Prophet ﷺ, he tells us, إن الدنيا حلوة خضرة وإن الله مستخلفكم فيها فينظر كيف تعملون فاتقوا الدنيا واتقوا النساء فإن أول فتنة بني إسرائيل كانت في النساء أو كما قال. Hadith in Sahih Muslim, narrated Abu Sayyid al-Khudri radiallahu anhu, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, indeed this world is sweet and green. The dunya is sweet and green. It tastes good and it looks good. And indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you turns of succession. Today you're the leader, tomorrow you'll be led. Today you're oppressed, tomorrow perhaps you'll be the oppressor. Today you have a losing record or team or season. Next season, 2 seasons, you'll be in the championship. Allah will make you khulafa. You'll be caliphs, you'll be leaders, you'll be succeeders. You will succeed and proceed. The Hadith states, فَيَنْظُرُ كَيْفَ تَعْمَلُونَ. And Allah will look and see at what you will do when it's what? When it's your turn. When you're in charge, we'll see your values of justice. And we'll see if you have a double standard or triple standard of justice. So, somebody is killed, somebody is shot. It's not my son or my brother that was shot. I'm going to go to the janazah. I'm going to do whatever I can to prevent another father or mother from feeling the pain that I felt. Not, oh, well, that's what he get. That's his fault. He was wilding out. He was this, he was that. You're not against young boys being murdered. You're only against what? Your son being murdered. Hence, it will repeat itself. You're not against other women being harmed and raped and violated. You're only against your women being harmed and violated and raped, or women that come from your race. And much can be said with regards to the history of civil rights and the disasters that came after the Civil War, and how people today are extremely touchy and sensitive when it comes to their women folk. And they have a long history of violating countless women of other folk. And then, subhanAllah, the men of the oppressed women, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, what happens? The cycle spins and they become the oppressors of other women. And it keeps going on and on and on and on until somebody says enough is enough. It's not okay. I have no personal investment in this movement, but my personal investment is based off of my faith as a Muslim. You see evil, change it with your hands. You see evil, if you can't change it with your hands, at least don't be a coward. Say something, have enough heart to say something about it. And if you're too scared, if you're too weak, if you're too afraid that you'll be canceled and blackballed and boycotted, and look at the history of the term, what it means to be blackballed, has Masonic origins. With regards to a Mason being bumped up in his level and his degree, the carpenters, and the way of nominating a person being leveled up in his degree of masonry. Hence the term, they blackballed me. Now I can't find a job, I can't. That's a story in itself. Where does that term, where does that word come from? So the moral of the story is, we as Muslims, we are supposed to have moral codes, or the moral code. We're never ever supposed to lose it. We're to maintain it. We're to ask Allah to make it firm, to give us more, and to bless us even, push us even further. And any injustice is injustice, even if you have no personal investments in it. And the world is a safer place for Muslim, Jew, Christian, African, Arab, Caucasian, Hispanic, Latino, Chicano, whatever your denomination or ethnicity is. The world is a safer place when there aren't any double standards concerning justice. So, what I want to share with you, inshallah ta'ala, is a beautiful prophetic selection, a topic what we've already mentioned, concerning how the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught and instructed the companions, and there are no double standards, or there aren't to be any double standards with regards to justice, with regards to right and wrong, with regards to adl and dhulm. Okay, justice and injustice. It's a hadith that I've spoken on many times before. I've shared it many times before. I mentioned this hadith in 40 Hadith on Seeking Knowledge, Volume 2. And it's a beautiful hadith, a wonderful hadith, which man, woman, and child, father, mother, teacher, student, everyone should be able to relate to and take something from. We're going to read the hadith from his original source, as we always try to do. It's coming from the Musnad of Imam Ahmad. Musnad Imam Ahmad. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, حدثنا يزيد بن هارون قال حدثنا حديث قال حدثنا سليم بن عامر عن أبي أمامة قال إن فتى شابا أتى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال يا رسول الله إذني بالزنا فأقبل القوم عليه فزجروه وقالوا ما فقال ادنه فدنا منه قريبا قال فجلس قال أتحبه لأمك قال لا والله جعلني الله فداك قال ولا الناس يحبونه لأمهاتهم قال أفتحبه لابنتك قال لا والله يا رسول الله جعلني الله فداك قال ولا الناس يحبونه لبناتهم قال أفتحبه لأختك قال لا والله جعلني الله فداك قال ولا الناس يحبونه لأخواتهم قال أفتحبه لعمتك قال لا والله جعلني الله فداءك قال ولا الناس يحبونه لعماتهم قال أفتحبه لخالتك قال لا والله جعلني الله فداءك قال ولا الناس يحبونه لخالتهم قال فوضع يده عليه وقال اللهم اغفر ذنبه وطهر قلبه وحصن فرجه فلم يكن بعد ذلك الفتى يلتفت إلى شيء. قال رحمه الله تعالى حدثنا أبو المغيرة قال حدثنا جرير قال حدثني سليم بن عامر أن أبا أمامة حدثه أن غلاما شابا أتى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فذكره. So to get the translation, the explanation, to link everything up in this talk or this lecture, you guys gotta pay. You have to pay. Everything isn't for free. Nah? And many things you may be used to getting for free, but we need to break out of that habit. Something as simple as using the public bathroom. You take for granted in the United States. But if you're traveling abroad, in many European countries, you have to what? You have to pay just to use the bathroom. Or certain supermarkets. You take the cart, you throw it, you toss it, you make the poor cart boy walk all the way to the middle of the parking lot. Some supermarkets you have to what? You got to put a quarter inside of it. So therefore, what can we learn, or what do we know about this book called Al-Musnad? Musnad Ahmad. What is the Musnad of Imam Ahmad? If we get at least 3 solid answers, then perhaps I'll share the benefit with you guys, inshallah. At least 3. Perhaps. Beautiful. Collection of hadith. Lead batter's job is to do what? What is a lead batter's job in baseball?
Oh, not at all. Get on base.
Thank you. Get on base. Hit a home run? Is that his primary job?
Get on base.
It's to do what? Get on base. You get walked, you get hit, it's to do what? Get on base. Stealing a base, Someone taking you to third home, your job is to start it off. All right, beautiful. So when you're answering a question in a class, don't think about the biggest, fattest, juiciest answer, but just a quick, accurate answer to get the rhythm and the momentum what? Flow. Everybody clear on this? This is a technique of studying. Many people, they get stumped and stumbled. Just think of an accurate answer. Next answer. Musnad Ahmed, fadal.
It's organized by Sahaba.
It's organized according to the Sahaba, in contrast to Sahih Bukhari, which is organized according to the subject, the book of faith, the book of knowledge, the book of funerals, the book of zakat, the book of wills. Imam Ahmed, he compiled his book, he put it together according to the companions. What order did he use? The companions. Abu Bakr's collection of hadith, Umar's collection of hadith, Uthman ibn Affan's collection of hadith, regardless of the topic. So for argument's sake, there are 350 hadiths of Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. The first hadith could be on Tahara. Second hadith could be on Salah. No, that's a bad example. That's putting it in order. The first hadith could be on what? No, that's putting it in order. That's a bad answer. Jihad. Jihad doesn't come before faith and Sunan Abu Dawud. Salah or Tahara doesn't. Well, heck of that. So it could be on a battle that happened in the 9th year of the Hijrah, the 10th year of the Hijrah, and not the first battle. The second hadith could be on what? Business. Third hadith could be on what?
Marriage.
You guys are sticking with the order. Business. Many scholars put the book of marriage after the book of business. And obviously that's clear, because to get married you need what?
Contract.
You need money. No, not contract. You need business. Nothing is for free. Not even love. So here, Sheikh, you gotta pay for everything in this world. It's a fact. Or we differ on this. I'll tell you. Fourth hadith will be on what? Emancipation. You're sticking to the what? Sticking to the order. We're still talking about fiqh.
Right over the socks.
Tahara. After jihad. Fifth, sixth hadith will be on what?
Dirty water.
Still dealing with fiqh chapters. Al-Muhim, Musnad Imam Ahmed is compiled according to the Sahaba who narrated the hadiths, not the topic matter, not the theme. We need one last answer, inshallah ta'ala, to unlock or to decode. Etiquette, that's a good answer. Let's move forward to the last thing that we know about Musnad Imam Ahmed. Anything. Sahih, good answer. It's generally sound. Not every single hadith, but it's generally an accepted Sunni, orthodox, mainstream source of prophetic traditions. Correct or incorrect?
Correct.
Some books are sounder than others, more famous than others, but it's generally accepted to be a good source. Perfect answer. Alright, so Imam Ahmed rahimahullah ta'ala, how many hadiths did he collect?
Over 16,000.
Over 16,000. That's the correct answer, but it's too vague.
40,000.
40,000 is closer to the correct answer. Not 100%, but closer. So Imam Ahmed's Musnad is bigger than whose book? Bukhari. It's bigger than whose book? Muslim. It's bigger than whose book? Nasa'i, Malik's Muwatta. And Imam Ahmed is a predecessor of Bukhari and Muslim. A teacher, a sheikh of those later scholars. So most hadiths that are in Bukhari and Muslim, Nasa'i, Abu Dawud, you can find them in Musnad Ahmed. Everyone understand this? And much can be said regarding that. Al-Muhim, that's not the topic of our discussion. Nor is this the proper setting for all of these technical details. We have a mixed crowd, but I try my best whenever we have a talk to pepper it and to sprinkle it with the benefits pertaining to hadith. For us to be, inshallah ta'ala, upon the way of the people of hadith. Alright, tight. So Imam Ahmed rahimahullah ta'ala, everybody listen carefully. he quotes his isnad, his chain of narration, that goes back to the companion, whose name is Abu Umama. Like Abu Hurairah, Abu Bakr, there's Abu Umama. Suday ibn Ajlan al-Bahili, famous hadith reporter. Abu Umama radiallahu anhu, he tells us the following words. إِنَّ فَتًا شَابًا أَتَى النَّبِيَّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. That one day, a young man, a young fatan shaban, a young strapping lad, a handsome, strong, enthused young man. He was young, double young, fatan, and also shab, full of life. He came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sitting with the companions. Abu Bakr, Umar, they were in the majlis, they were sitting with the Sahaba. And in most cases, most of the companions, if not all of them, were what? Older than him. Right or wrong? You go, you visit your grandpa, or this old head, or your uncle. In most cases, he's sitting with his what? His generation, his old heads. They may allow you in, or they may say, you staying at the door. You're too young in this conversation, or whatever the case may be. So this proves that the young man wasn't afraid. He had courage. He was brave. He was brash. I don't care. I want to ask the Prophet something. I have a right to ask, and I'm going to express my right. Listen carefully to what he asked the Messenger of Allah. He said, "Oh Messenger of Allah, فَقَالَ يَا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ إِذَنِّي بِالزِّنَا." He says, I want you to allow me to do something. I'm asking your permission for something. And that is, I want you, listen carefully to the wordings. We're going to come back to how important this is. He said, it then. He said, allow me. Very important word now. Allow me to fornicate. I want to fornicate. I want to have haram sex, reckless, no strings attached, before marriage. And I want you to tell me that it's okay. Not how many prayers I can make at night. Can I give all of my sadaqah? Do I need my mother's permission to fight in Allah's cause? No. I want you to tell me that I can enjoy my sexual desires in a haram way. فَأَقْبَلَ الْقَوْمُ عَلَيْهِ فَزَجْرُوهُ وَقَالُوا مَهْمَا. So obviously the companions, they looked at him like, we would say, what the heck is wrong with you? A'udhu billah, astaghfirullah, la ilaha illallah. How dare you ask a question like that? Some of you brothers may want to jump up and hem him up, right? You can't speak to the imam like that. Right or wrong? You throw him across the room just for asking the wrong question to the imam back in the day, let alone doing some type of harm to the imam. So they said, what's wrong with you? This is a disrespectful question. It's an inappropriate question. And the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on the opposite, he said, I don't know. He says, tell him to come close. Don't send him further away. Don't banish him, but instead tell him to have direct access to me. فَدَنَا مِنْهُ قَرِيبًا. So he said, very close to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. قَالَ فَجَلَسَ. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the boy, they were sitting there, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he asked him a question. أَتُحِبُّهُ لِأُمِّكَ. He said, would you be okay with a man fornicating with your mother? Yes or no? Is it okay for a man to exploit your mother, to womanize your mother, to just come and go and use her whenever he wants to? No rights, no honor, no dignity, no prestige. He's just, as we say, hit and run. Is that okay? So the young man, he said, La wallahi. He says, no, by Allah, that's not okay. Oh Messenger of Allah, if you happen to be captured, may Allah put me in your stead. I would ransom my neck for your safety. Of course I don't like that for my mother. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, oh young man, son, boy, the people, they don't like their mothers to be abused and exploited. It doesn't feel good, right? Nor does it feel good to Fulan, that's his mom, and that's brother Fulan's mother, this Chinese lady, this Vietnamese woman that's raped, this African American woman that's raped, this Caucasian woman that's raped, this Hispanic woman that was raped and violated, none of those men enjoyed what happened to their daughters and sisters and nieces. So how can you go and do it to someone else and say, that's not my problem, I don't care. They're inferior, they're subhuman, that's what they deserve. She was asking for it. These are things that men have said and say. She wanted me to violate her. She wanted me to take advantage of her. She wanted to be used and abused by me. Maybe she did. That's not the point though. The men don't what? They don't like it. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he then asked the young man, أَفَتُحِبُّهُ لِبْنَتِكَ? How about your daughter? You may not like it for your mom, but maybe you'll accept it for your daughter. Maybe it's okay for men to abuse and use your daughter. The young man, he said, of course not. Wallahi, I swear it's not okay. And just stop, guys. Just pause for a second. And just look at the nature of this hadith and the nature of people today. When their race or religion or denomination is being oppressed, how much fervor do they have? How do they speak up? We have a right to defend ourselves, our property. The people in the north, they're being bombed and the missiles are raining down on their homes and houses. My son is a hostage. My son is being held by these evil terrorists. How many thousands of people have their sons and daughters detained? How are you so entitled and deluded? It hurts, right, not seeing your son, not knowing what's happening to your son. Is your son being abused? Is he being fed? Is he being starved? Does it feel good? How do you think the thousands of people feel about their sons and daughters? And subhanAllah, when their sons and daughters are returned to them, they go back to turning a what? A blind eye to another child being captured or detained and so on and so forth. So the Prophet ﷺ says, how about your daughter, if not your mother? Of course, I swear by Allah, wallahi, I wouldn't be pleased with someone sleeping with my daughter like that. May Allah make me your ransom. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ says, وَلَلنَّاسُ يُحِبُّونَهُ لِبَنَاتِهِمْ. Men don't like their daughters to be treated that way. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ, he then asked him, أَفَتُحِبُّهُ لِأُخْتِكَ? How about your sister? Alright, definitely not your mother, definitely not your daughter, but maybe your sister, maybe you're okay with that. The young man, he said, La wallahi, by Allah I swear, Ja'alillahu fidaka, may Allah make me your ransom. وَلَلنَّاسُ يُحِبُّونَهُ لِأَخْوَاتِهِمْ. Men don't like their sisters to be treated like that either. And then he asked the young boy about his aunt or his aunt, Ammatika, from your father's side. And the young man gave the same response. And then he asked the young man about your aunt from your mother's side. And the young man gave the same response. And the Prophet gave the same response. وَلَلنَّاسُ يُحِبُّونَهُ لِعَمَّاتِهِمْ وَلَلنَّاسُ يُحِبُّونَهُ لِخَالَاتِهِمْ. Men don't like their aunts to be mistreated from their father's side or their mother's side. The hadith then says, the Messenger of Allah, he said at the end of this critical discussion, Allahumma ghfir adhanba wa tahhir qalba wa hasin farja. He said, oh Allah, please, I beg you to forgive this young man of his sin. Oh Allah, I beg you to purify his heart. Oh Allah, I beg you to keep him chaste. The narrator states, فَلَمْ يَكُنْ ذَلِكَ الْفَتَى يَلْتَفِتُ إِلَى الشَّيْءِ. After that, a critical discussion, rather before the critical discussion, was the Messenger of Allah ﷺ what? Listening, hearing him. He allowed him to talk. Then after he spoke, the Messenger what? Spoke to him. He didn't talk, holler, scream, shut up, you're stupid, you're evil. But he listened to the boy, then he allowed the boy to do what? To talk again, back and forth, back and forth. And he forced the young man to do what? Think critically. And he forced the young man to sympathize and to empathize. And he forced the young man to do away with the what? Double what? Standards of justice. It's okay with this man's daughter, but it ain't okay with what? Not my daughter. Of course not. Not my race. Not the people of our religion. We would never allow them to suffer and to go through that. But other people,
Selective outrage.
no. And last but not least, the Messenger of Allah, he did the most powerful thing. More powerful than critical dialogue and discussion, because you have to be careful. When we start talking about psychology, your son needs therapy and this and that, that's important. But the most important thing is the dua. He said, oh Allah, forgive him of his sin. And subhanAllah, the Prophet said, he said that he made a sin. And the young boy didn't even make what? He didn't make zina. But he said his sin. And what is the cause of one's sexual organs going astray? No, the heart. That's the foundation of everything. That is the engine of the entire everything. If the heart is putrid, if it's acrid, tell you, if the heart is rancid, if it's festering, rotten, smelly, and mushy, then of course you're going to make zina. And you're going to think about it and fantasize about it and call to it, and the list goes on. And last but not least, there is the forgiveness, there is the purification of the heart, and there's the physical as well. We don't underestimate the physical sense. You know, people get a little lost with mystic things, the mind, the spirit, this and that, a strong mind, the struggle within. Let's not get detached from reality. Strength, size, physical things do what? They do matter. And there is a physical element to life. There's a time in which physical toughness, not mental toughness, is what's needed. And obviously that's based off of the mental and the spiritual toughness. So the narrator, he said, after the Prophet ﷺ listened to the young man, after he made the critical discussion with the young man, after he made dua for the young man was as straight as an arrow. He never thought about, talked about, let alone walk towards anything. I.e., the Prophet ﷺ as a teacher, as an instructor, as a cultivator, he was successful. He reached one, he taught one, and by Allah's permission, he did what? He healed them, he saved them. And obviously that young man, he's going to do what now? Pass it on to others, and spread it to others, and teach others. And he understands there is no lifting up the mask of justice. Justice is supposed to be what? Blind. Alright. When's the last time somebody was shot in this country? In a school or a mall or anything? A couple days ago. Where at? Madison. Right or wrong? How many people were killed?
4.
Did the gunman kill him or herself?
Yeah.
They did. How many people wounded and injured?
6.
How many shootings have there been in the last 3 months, 6 months? Last 12 months? Schools, clubs, just people, minding their business, getting shot up. Let alone masjids, why they ever been that? Synagogues, churches, whatever the case may be. How many mass shootings have there been? So, before I stop, inshallah, because much can be said about this hadith. When the mass shootings were in their early stages in this country, before they became like a trend, copycat, and I want to be like him, his name is written on my AR-15, it's written on my magazine, I'm going to live stream it, right? Before the people started getting to that sunnah. But when these mass shootings were very early, in their infantile stages, there was a place, a city, a location that was to this day is iconic, it's famous. I'm not going to mention the name of it. So these children, these teenagers, they went into the school with guns, assault rifles, shotguns, and they shot up a bunch of people. So it was a shock in the Midwest. Simple, easy living. It's not like New York, the cities here, LA, this stuff shouldn't happen, where we live. So it was a big thing. So there was a very famous and infamous, some say good, some say bad, some say ugly. I don't know him, he was famous, everybody knew him. He was someone of major influence before the era of Instagram and so on and so forth. He's a musician. And there were tons of teens listening to his music. And perhaps some of the teens that did this shooting happened to listen to his music. And this musician, he was totally unorthodox. The way he dressed, the way he talked, everything about him was unorthodox. He didn't go in line with how you should dress and how you should sell. He created his own lane, he stuck to it. Anyone wants to listen to my music, likes it or dislikes it, I really don't care. So obviously many people, they didn't like that about him. And they didn't like the fact that he was bold enough to be himself. And how so many teens loved and adored and hero worshiped this musician. So there came an interviewer, and obviously the interviewer had a full cup. They wanted to heckle him. They wanted to, play him and insult him. So they asked him, such and such teen, listen to your album, listen to this back in the day, the tapes and CDs. What do you have to say about it? Is your music, are you responsible for what happened, so on and so forth? He said, of course not. I'm just a musician. I don't force kids to pick up guns. That's not my message. So it's okay, all right, if you don't bear no responsibility, then if you, for argument's sake, if you had the opportunity to talk to those kids before they walked into the school and shot everybody up, what would you have said to them? If you knew that they were going to do that, tell us what you would have told them. And obviously, the prejudice, just because a person dresses a certain way, it automatically means this and that. He said, well, first and foremost, I wouldn't have said anything to them. So you're automatically wrong. He says, instead, I would have listened to them. I would have allowed them to talk to me. And perhaps, by me listening to them and hearing what they have to say, right or wrong, maybe, just maybe, it could have slowed down that major tragic event by listening to what they had to say. We're about to go shoot up these people. Why? Tell me why. Is there an alternative? Is there a substitute? They did this to you? Tell me what's your plan. What do you want to do? Are you going to kill yourself? Are you going to run away? What if you see a little kid or a little baby? What if you run into your family member? Tell me your game plan and your end game. He says, that's what I would have done. And of course, the interviewer they were stumped. They weren't prepared for that answer. So we learn this from this hadith, that the Prophet ﷺ listened to the young man, even though the young man had outwardly bad intentions. And what he said was wrong. What he said was totally wrong. Zina is a major sin. But look at the beauty of the young man's mind. How he knew that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ was the lawgiver. If he said it was halal, then it would be what? It would be halal. He didn't say, I'm going to make zina, oh Messenger of Allah, don't stone me to death. I'm going to make zina, don't whip me, don't flog me. But he said, allow me to make zina. And the companions were thinking inside of the box. The Messenger of Allah was thinking what? Outside of the box. Instead of pushing them further away, how about we what? Bring them closer. So the concept of justice, if you want things to change, you have to change the people's mindset, then the behavior will change. And as long as you lecture and talk and huff and puff and growl and spit on people, they may listen, they may change here and there, but in most cases they're going to learn how to do it better when you're not around. Or they're going to rebel against you until you change their mindset, until you get people to see the ugliness of the double standard and of the hypocrisy, and how much of insincere, how much genuine, you're not a genuine person. And that's because if you were against slavery, you will be against it for all. Now you're magnanimous, and now you have what? You have your own slaves. So clearly you never looked at slavery as being an abomination. You yourself didn't want to be a slave. And the last thing that I'll say, I don't want to take up too much time, it's very unfortunate that one of the greatest heroes of civil rights, supposedly, is a man who never stood for civil rights, absolutely. He was a man who had double, triple standards. He fought for injustice against his own race, against his own people, against other people. And he not only allowed, encouraged the oppression of other races by that colonizing power, as long as it wasn't done to ours. And that is Mohandas Gandhi. Gandhi was a pathological racist and a nationalist and a fanatic for people of that land, Indians, Hindus, whatever the case may be. He was against Muslims, he was against Africans, he was against mixed, whatever, Malal, fourth, half mixed. You can run over them, you can stomp them out, I don't care what you do to them. They deserve to be slaves. But the Indians cannot be under the oppression of the British. And to this very day, he is heralded and championed as a founding father of civil rights and justice and equality. But you read his life, his saga, let alone the nasty statements that he made, you'll find that he really didn't care about British oppression. Absolutely. He just didn't want the Indians to be oppressed by the British. So we have to get out of this double standard of hypocrisy. We have to be against dhulm, no matter who does it, no matter who commits it, friend, foe, race, inside, outside the race. And only then, by Allah's